Sam. That was another name that often captured her attention despite her best efforts to focus on the here and now. The comfort of his embrace and the images of him bursting into Miles's room to rescue her accompanied her to sleep each night. He was the promise of what she could have had, of what she had sacrificed to return to her family. Rox wiped her eyes as she turned left through the open gate that enclosed Michael's property. MJ sat in the doorway with his stopwatch in hand, the wraparound porch protecting him from the rain. He jumped up and pressed the stop button when her foot hit the first step. He looked down at the stopwatch with the expectation of a child, but then his smile slipped, just a little. "It started raining," he said, offering her an excuse for not setting a personal best. A combination of intense joy and guilt brought tears to her eyes as she realized she would never receive more love from another human. "I slipped and fell," she said, hoping that her son hadn't noticed the catch in her voice. "Ugh, you're wet and sweaty," he said as she pulled him in for a hug, but he wrapped his arms around her anyway. It was almost 5 years ago that everything changed for Rox, or perhaps began would be more accurate. She awoke without memory and discovered she had the involuntary ability to heal. If that wasn't enough to come to grips with, she didn't wake up in Singapore with her family, but instead in the US with Josh, a stranger and a master manipulator. The only reason she made it back home was because she agreed to work for GFO. It hadn't been an amicable arrangement. They had dangled information about her true identity in front of her with the caveat she work for them on their terms. There was an easy no thank you until she realized they were her best chance at not only finding her family, but also protecting them from people like Dr. Tusk. "You and Dad still going out?" MJ asked. She had forgotten about that. "Think so," she said. "Where is he?" "Call," MJ said, which meant Michael, her husband, was in the room off to the left of the kitchen that served as his home office, more than likely with the door closed and his headset on so he wouldn't be disturbed. MJ sat in front of the television and resumed playing his video game. Rox would have followed him, but the floors were marble, so she walked along the side of the house to her quarters at the back. It was the nicest place she'd stayed in since leaving Josh. The walls were a pale yellow with an off-white border, and when she first arrived, smelled as if it had been recently painted. The furniture was new.